jam up election day lines in urban areas where lines are already going to be long too, and that's going to create additional chaos because they'll have to essentially trade one ballot for another, which I...
안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동을 일단은 하고 있다고 생각을 하는 동타왕고입니다. 오늘은 일요일 맞나? 일요일이죠 오늘. 오늘은 일요일. 비가 왔어요. 밖에 나가질 않아서 잘 모르겠지만 비가 왔다고 합니다. 하루 종일 집에서 TV를 봤어요. 먹고 자고 넷플릭스를 봤습니다. 퀸즈 갬벳 체스 두는 영화. 뭐 재밌어요? 저는 약간 그 시대극을 좋아합니다. 시대극이라고 하는 건 과거를 한 60년대 70년대를 표현한 그런 것들이 재밌어요. 흥미로워요. 그거를 되게 잘 살린 그런 영화인 것 같습니다. 영화네. 시리즈, 넷플릭스 시리즈물인데 재밌어요. 운동해야 되는데 일단 운동이 너무 하기 싫습니다. 오늘까지는 그냥 쉬고 싶어요. 하지만 전 내일도 쉽니다. 내일은 운동을 진짜 많이 해야 될 텐데 집도 엄청 더럽네. 머리카락이 엄청 떨어져 있습니다. 저기 식탁이 있는데 저 식탁 위에도 치워야 돼요. 엄청 더럽습니다. 일단 운동을 최대한 할게요. 지금 밤 11시가 넘어서 이제 스트레칭을 하는데 원래 일어나자마자 했었어야 되는데 죄송합니다. 제가 게을러서 그래요. 그럼 이제 무슨 운동하지? 오늘은 그냥 팔굽혀펴기만 좀 할게요. CNN을 보도록 하겠습니다. 역시 미국은 지금 이제 며칠 안 남았죠. 2일 남았어요. 미국 대선. 한참 난립니다 지금.
People just we can't trust Donald Trump. He's proven that time and time again. So of course he's going to lie and try to sow chaos and division. But I think that we can ignore him, frankly, and we should focus on getting the results right, not getting them fast.
Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, any update on when you think Pennsylvania will be done, or people just have to strap in and wait?
I mean, the truth is that voting is actually going well in Pennsylvania. The one documented case of voter fraud in this cycle was actually a Republican in Luzerne County who tried to vote for his deceased mother. So, but that doesn't necessarily factor into this unprecedented assault by Donald Trump on the integrity of our voting system, which is absolutely sound. Once again, that's part of that kit.
I think
is the Supreme Court. He's not even trying to hide that at this point. It's openly part of his strategy. And you have a number of counties in Pennsylvania that have defected to announce they are only going to count mail-in ballots starting November 4th, which again, I strenuously disagree with, as does our Secretary of State. Like I said, that two-pronged approach in Pennsylvania is one that is the Trump campaign's only path to victory in Pennsylvania.
Gentlemen, appreciate both your time on this very important Sunday. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, best of luck in the days ahead. Again, thank you both for being with us. And to anybody out there watching, just vote. If you have a chance, vote. Find a way to do it. Don't trust the mail at this point. Up next for us, the final week of the 2020 campaign is the worst week of the coronavirus pandemic.
The race ends here. Election night in America. The way only CNN can bring it to you. Welcome to CNN special coverage. From the first votes to the critical count.
Joe Biden could win the presidency without winning Ohio.
Understand what's happening in your state and across the country. Watch with the most trusted name in news.
We have a major projection right now.
Election night in America. Wednesday on CNN.
I'm Wolf Blitzer. Hey, Charles Barkley.
Jake Tapper here.
I'm fortunate to have a role in this world
where I get to use my voice.
Well, November 3rd, every American
gets to use their voice.
To vote.
To vote.
To vote.
It requires no words at all.
But will be heard forever.
No matter where in the world you live.
Or how you do it.
Please.
Please, please, let your voice be heard.
We are in the closing days of a campaign, but we know the coronavirus crisis will stay with us well past the election. Let's just look at some of these numbers right now, and they are horrific. 37 states, that's the red and the orange. We do politics red and blue. Red and orange here, those are states that have more new COVID infections right now than a week ago, and there are 37 of them. 9 states holding steady, only 4 reporting fewer infections right now compared to a week ago. This is where you see the troubling weeks and weeks and perhaps months ahead. Look at the trend line, going almost straight up. A new record Friday. Last week was a week of record high case counts, 99,000. The experts say 100,000 is in our near future. A little bit down on Saturday, but the trend line there going straight up. This was the summer peak, 77. You can see 20,000 plus over that already and counting as we head up. This, too, a painful graphic in the sense that for all the cases, the death rate has stayed down a bit, but it is starting to trend up. Friday went over 1,000. Let's hope they're wrong, but the experts say days of over 1,000, maybe 1,500 are in our very near future. Let's hope they're wrong about that. If you just look at this, this tells you sort of the months we've been through. In April, the Northeast getting it mostly, a little bit down in Louisiana, some spots around the country. By July, the summer surge, you start to see much more red. Here's where we are now. This is pretty much all across America. Yes, some areas darker than others, but all of America right now involved in this fall surge of coronavirus cases. To make that point, 31 states had record case counts this past week. 31. The president says we've rounded the corner. That tells you that's simply not true as more states post these records. And in the final days of a campaign, this is what people are seeing. This is what people are seeing. These are battleground states, but all across America. States near shortage of ICU beds. Regencies, most virus cases since August. Virus continues to surge. People are getting sicker. Let's bring into our conversation now our veteran CNN political commentators, the Democrat Paul Begala and the Republican Alice Stewart. And Alice, that's the question I want to ask you first. I get the president's in the middle of a campaign. I get the inconvenience of this. But this is his job. This is his job. Not once in recent days or weeks as this surge has started has the president done an event at the White House as president, not as candidate, as president, to just walk the American people through what is happening. Even if he wants to defend his policy, the voters can decide whether they like it or not. Why not?
Well, certainly that's not a great messaging for him. And the reality is, John, and I think we all three can agree, the numbers you just outlined are the real reason why we're seeing 92 million Americans vote early. They are motivated, to vote early and use caution and social distance. But the coronavirus is a big factor. That's also why we're seeing Joe Biden using that as part of his closing argument. He's pushing COVID as well as character, and he's really stressing what he feels as the administration's inaction on COVID. And the president is out there. Certainly he talks about what he is going to do with COVID and has done with regard to PPE and working on getting a vaccine and contact tracing, and to some degree encouraging people to wear masks and social distance. But he is driving home the closing argument of safety and prosperity, and really trying to steer away from COVID, but really focusing on the economic opportunities that the last 4 years he has created and what he plans to do moving forward.
Paul, I have the 2016 map up here. A lot of Democrats, obviously, who thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, will be grateful when we don't use this as the template anymore when we move on to a new election. But when you look at the map in the final weeks, we've gone through the polling in the program here. You know, Joe Biden seems to have a steady lead in Michigan and Wisconsin. But the big question this time, you and I met a long time ago when it was Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas running for president. And he did change the map some because he was from Arkansas, and he put together, he won Georgia, for example. In one of his campaigns, he won Arizona. Do you see this as a map-changing election?
I do, John. I do. First, it's good to see you again. You know, back in Clinton's days, by the way, we were planning his campaign. California had gone Republican in 9 out of the 10 previous elections. 9 out of 10. It was the most reliably red big state in America. Now Texas is. And I know you think I'm crazy, but Texas is going to go blue. It hasn't gone Democrat, of course, since Jimmy Carter in 1976. In fact, no Democrat has won a statewide election since 1994. But there has been a surge in voting. Texas is usually last, 49th or 50th in voting. It's number 1 in voting now. 9 million Texans have voted. This is led by a surge of young people 1.4 million young people have voted in Texas already. MJ Hagar, the Democratic candidate there, is rallying people. She's given John Cornyn the race of his life. I think she's going to knock him off. So it's things like that. You have a similar situation in Georgia, which Bill Clinton did win, but no Democrat has won since. Same thing. You've got huge rallying of the Democratic base, and you have the suburbs collapsing for Mr. Trump. So I think we're seeing that in a lot of states.
So, Alice, that's the point, and I'll clear this and bring up Texas. We'll see if Mr. Begala's hopes for his home state of Texas are correct. But Paul makes the key point. Democratic voters are motivated by their anti-Trump animus. So we expect high turnout among progressives. We're seeing if Democrats can deliver up to Election Day with African Americans and Latinos. But the suburbs are the key. In 2018, in the Dallas suburbs, the House Democrats added a seat. In the Houston suburbs, Harris County, one of the fastest growing places in America, Democrats picked up a seat in the House. That is the challenge. Why have the suburbs of the United States, including in a state we used to think of as ruby red, why are they turning against this president?
Well, a lot of that, what we're seeing is with regard to women voters and his ability to connect with them. Look, I think Democrats have made tremendous inroads in Texas. I spent a lot of time there in the Cruz campaign.
지금 11분 지났는데
really started to blaze the trail
30분 꽉 찰 겁니다, 진짜.
I don't see it happening at this point. I think it will be tremendously close. I don't see it happening. And likewise, in my home state of Georgia, Stacey Abrams did a great job of leading Georgia to the blue column, but I still see that staying as a Republican state.
원래 파급폭격의 목표 개수가 원래 하루에 100개예요.
The Sun Belt versus the Rust Belt. We're looking at these Sun Belt states.
네, 100개를 안 하는 날이 많은 것 같아요.
North Carolina, Arizona, those are very tight. I see Trump bringing those home on election day, but we're looking at the Rust Belt states. I think the Trump campaign has a little bit more of a challenge. We're looking at Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Of course, we know Pennsylvania has been, for the Democratic candidates, the last 6 presidential elections until 2016 for Trump. So it is an uphill battle. With Joe Biden going there before Election Day to make the closing argument, it will help to bring the Democrats to his side. But I do see the President Trump having a good day on election day with regard to these Sun Belt states.
좀 다릅니다.
These numbers are super close and very tight.
우리나라의 선거 방식을 직선제라고 하고
To that point,
어쨌든 국민들이 한 명 한 명이 다 표를 주는 건데 미국의 대통령은 다르다고 알고 있어요. 의회 대표의 표대로 가는 거죠.
Those were states going back to your win with Bill Clinton in 1992. Until 2016, these states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, had been in the Democratic fold since 1992. Trump flipped them. What are you hearing from Democrats in the final days? Even in places where they think, okay, we're good with early voting, can they sustain it to the end? Because if you bank a bunch of votes early, but then you don't deliver the rest on Election Day, Trump does it again.
Absolutely, John, and they are haunted by that. I've talked to, of course, I did this earlier. I talked to, for example, Lavora Barnes, who's the Democratic chairwoman of the state party in Michigan. She knows to the exact number how many they lost Michigan by the last time. I talked to Ben Wickler, the chairman of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. Same thing. He's fanatically turning people out. I had a long talk with my old friend and former colleague, Senator Bob Casey, this week to really get a briefing on Pennsylvania. Everyone in those Rust Belt swing states that Alice referred to in the Democratic Party is just working their hearts out, and they are starting to walk with pride now. They've been shell-shocked, and they have PTSD from 2016, but there's been an attitude change this week. Some of it is Trump's campaigning, though, John. Newton's third law of physics still applies. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So Trump has these rallies, and they rally his base, and he's got great performance skills, and I respect that. But when he does that, he is spreading COVID. He is frightening seniors and motivating the Democratic base. Pennsylvania is the second oldest population of any state in America. And there's a study out of Stanford out today, or yesterday, that says Trump's rallies, just his rallies, have caused 30,000 cases of COVID and 700 deaths. If you're a senior citizen sitting in Pennsylvania and you watch these super spreader events, we shouldn't call them rallies, super spreader events, yeah, it motivates his base, but I'm telling you, it is turning out seniors, a cohort that Trump won, and turning them out for Biden.
Well, we'll be counting them on Tuesday to see if they do turn out. Our medical team's a little skeptical of the findings of that Stanford study. I want to make sure we get that on the record, but there's no question the president is holding rallies with people packed in closely, and there's some data in Minnesota, for example, that there are cases from them. Whether it's as high as that Stanford study, we're not quite so sure, but Paul Begala, Ellis Stewart, grateful for your insights on this final weekend, and that's it for Inside Politics. Hope you'll join us weekdays as well, especially in this big week ahead. We're here at 11 a.m. and noon Eastern. Up next, a very special 2-hour State of the Union with Jake Tapper. Thanks again for sharing your Sunday. Stay safe Vote.
Only 6% of businesses have full visibility of their supply chain, which means a lot of harmful practices still go unnoticed. That's not good enough. At Standard Chartered, we're working with businesses to adopt responsible supply chain standards. By doing so, we help ensure that the things you buy are made the right way. Because we're not here for good enough. We're Standard Chartered, and we're here for good.
이제 우리가 가까워질 시간. 서울에 온 걸 환영해요. 먼저 서울 스타일로 변신 어때요? 서울의 이야기를 조용히 들어봐요. 이번엔 짜릿한 서울을 즐길 시간. 서울 맛집으로 내가 안내할게요. 많이 기다렸죠? 같이 보고 싶다. 여행이 시작되면 첫 번째 목적지는 서울이 되길 바래. I saw you.
Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth.
아우.
Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth.
My name is Arthur White. I'm the manager of the Retail and Business Banking Department of an international bank in Cameroon. Nothing really prepared us for a crisis as hard as this one. So when it started, my greatest fear was that my teammates and my colleagues and the staff members find themselves hit by an emotional toll too heavy for them to bear. So we had to implement brutal changes to make sure people get the feeling of being safe while working. So I had to make adjustments at the personal level as well, because people looked up to me as a manager to be able to find motivation to go through the situation themselves. But again, I had to go through it with a family that lives far apart from here. I had to parent my kids through the phone and work through homeworks, sometimes late at night when I'm done from working. Now, my hopes for the future is that as the world reconstructs and recovers from the pandemics, that we as a collective unit build a more people-centered world, and that the quality of our overall decisions reflect the lessons we learned from this pandemic.
The race ends here. Election night in America. The way only CNN can bring it to you.
Welcome to CNN special coverage.
From the first votes to the critical count.
Joe Biden could win the presidency without winning Ohio.
Understand what's happening in your state and across the country. Watch with the most trusted name in news.
We have a major projection right now.
Election night in America. Wednesday on CNN.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
Last chance. With Election Day 48 hours away, candidates make their final pitches in crucial swing states.
You are so lucky that I'm your president.
We can put an end to a presidency that's failed to protect this nation.
As Joe Biden tries to maintain his lead, can President Trump convince voters to give him 4 more years? I'll speak with Biden campaign senior advisor Anita Dunn and Trump supporter Florida Senator Rick Scott next. And blue wall. As coronavirus hits the country harder than ever, Joe Biden tries to reclaim the states that turned for Trump.
It's time for Donald Trump to pack his bags and go home.
Can he rebuild that blue wall that crumbled in 2016? A special joint interview with the governors of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin next. Plus, the magic number. As the pandemic changes the way America votes and early voting reaches record highs, what are the paths to victory and 270 electoral
코로나가 한참일 때 투표 선거했었죠.
election night go?
국회의원 선거를 성승리에 마쳤었죠.
Hello, I'm Jake Tapper in Washington, where the State of our Union is on the edge of our seat.
와, 그게 벌써 4월달인가 그러네.
It all comes down to the next 2 days. Election day itself
이제
now
11월달이네요.
48 hours away, and both campaigns are using that time to make last-minute swings through battleground states. A series of new polls out show Joe Biden leading in Michigan and Wisconsin with a slight lead in Pennsylvania within the margin of error, and extremely tight races in Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona, where there is no clear leader. Make no mistake, this is anyone's race right now. Both Trump and Biden have clear paths to 270 electoral votes. Casting a shadow on the election, the reality of the coronavirus pandemic, which is surging across the country. New cases hitting a record at nearly 100,000 new cases just on Friday. Still, President Trump continues to downplay the pandemic, and the White House is once again attacking the nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who warned in a new interview with the Washington Post that the United States is in for a, quote, whole lot of hurt, and, quote, you could not be positioned more poorly. This as the president's chosen advisor on the coronavirus task force, Dr. Scott Atlas, who is not an expert on infectious diseases, mocked Dr. Fauci on Twitter and gave an interview to RT, the Kremlin-controlled propaganda network. We invited the White House to provide a guest for the show this morning. They declined. They pointed us to the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign offered us their national press secretary, Hogan Gidley, whom we accepted. Then they rescinded the offer and offered senior advisor to the campaign, David Bossie, whom we also accepted. They confirmed he would be here. Then they pulled him with no explanation, refusing to provide anyone else. Joining me now is one of Vice President Biden's closest and most trusted advisors, also a senior advisor to the campaign, Anita Dunn. Anita, thanks so much for joining us. So in the last 2 weeks, President Trump has held almost twice as many public campaign events as Biden has. We saw a massive crowd turn out last night for President Trump in Butler County, Pennsylvania. That's a must-win state for you, Pennsylvania. Biden told his supporters this week, quote, don't wake up on November 4th wishing you had done more. Are you confident that he won't wake up after the election wishing he had done more?
Oh, Jake, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always great to see you or talk to you. I think that if you look at our campaign, if you look at what we've got going on this weekend, if you look at what we've done since March, what Vice President Biden has done is basically why he's gotten in this race. He showed people what a responsible president does and how a responsible president acts. You know, when he got in this race, April 2019, he said he was running to restore the soul of the nation, to rebuild the backbone of the nation, the middle class, and to unite the nation. And what his message has been this final weekend, his message and everybody else's message has been he's going to be a president not for red America or for blue America, but for all of America. And so he's got an active schedule. Dr. Biden's got an active schedule. Senator Harris has an active schedule. We have President Obama's out campaigning for us. We have people across the board campaigning for us in states all across the country. People that ran against Vice President Biden in the primaries are out in force this weekend. I think everybody is not leaving anything to chance. We're going to work hard. We're going to work until the polls close. We're going to get every vote we can.
Is President Trump going to lose? Is Vice President Biden going to win?
Well, you know, I'm not in the prediction business. I'll leave that to all of you. But we feel confident about where we are, and we feel very confident about our pathways to victory. You know, usually at this point in a campaign, the number of states where you're competing tends to shrink. That, you know, the closer you get to an election, the smaller the number. this campaign has been very different. As we've gotten closer to the election, we've actually expanded the number of states where we think we're competitive and where we're putting resources and where the vice president, where Senator Harris, and where everybody else are campaigning. So, for example, states like Georgia, which I think most people didn't see as competitive even a month ago, are now states where you're going to be seeing, where you've seen Senator Harris, where you're going to be seeing people this last weekend, and where we think there'll be a real shot to win. Senator Harris was in Texas on Friday. When was the last time a Democrat campaigned in Texas in the last week of the presidential election? We're campaigning in states that haven't been competitive for decades. We've expanded the map, and we feel very good about our pathways to victory.
It looks like, in many ways, it's all coming down to the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Trump was there yesterday. He drew
a state you know well.
I know it very